Brentwood, Tennessee real estate is awesome. So there's no perfect place to live. So if you're moving to Nashville, if you're moving to the Middle Tennessee area, there's a specific place that's just right for you. But I get a lot of questions from people that immediately want to talk about Brentwood, Tennessee. Today's show, we're going to talk about the pros and cons as I see it as a lifelong Nashvillian who grew up my life about maybe a mile and a half from the center of Brentwood, Tennessee, that's now the middle of everything. I grew up when it was really nothing. So I'll tell you the pros and the cons of Brentwood, Tennessee, and you determine for yourself if it's the right spot for you. See you on the other side. Hey there, I'm Susan Thetford with Parks Properties, lifelong Nashvillian, lifelong realtor, and here to help you with this show, help you to find some areas that might be a good fit for you when you're beginning your research on moving to Nashville. So if that's for you, I suggest you please go ahead and subscribe to this show. Every single week we do new videos to show you different areas all over. Maybe Hendersonville, maybe you want to be by the lake. Maybe you want to be far out and you want to have hundreds of acres. You want to be somewhere maybe between Nashville and toward Dixon. It just depends on what you're looking for, and we may have the right spot for you. So go ahead, subscribe here. And if you have questions for me, if you have a place you'd like me to take a look at, or to even just have a conversation with you about it may not be big enough to even do a video on, I'd love to help you in any way that I can. So reach out, put a message in the comments. Okay, so let me give you some of the stats as of today about Brentwood, Tennessee. Then we'll get into some of the pros and cons. Here are some of the stats. Population is right at 42,000. Now that hasn't changed. I looked at one website that said, it's not a growing, thriving place. It's not growing. Well, I'll tell you what, that pro that it's not growing to many people is a con to others, but there's a reason for it too. We'll get into that a little bit later. But population is about 42. Average family size is 3.36. I never understand how they get a decimal of a family member, but please let me know what that means. The average age is right at 41 and a half years old. I kind of question that, and I'll tell you why later. And the number of people in poverty is 1.9%. Well, I think that's probably true, and that's probably people on a very fixed income who've been here forever and they haven't moved out of their homes, because it is not an unhealthy socioeconomic area. Brentwood is approximately 50% male, 50% female. That may be a good thing for you. The population growth is very little. Now here's the reason for that. There's a very specific boundary for Brentwood. Brentwood is in Williamson County, just south of Davidson County. Davidson County is where Nashville is. Brentwood is just barely over the Williamson-Davidson County line. As a matter of fact, there are parts of Brentwood that actually I call Brentwood Light, because it has the Brentwood post office, it has the Brentwood mailing address, but it's technically in Davidson County. So if you want the benefits maybe of being in Williamson County, Brentwood, because of some of the other things I'll mention to you, but you don't want to pay the prices for the housing of that, then Brentwood Light, as I call it, might be the spot for you. But there's very little growth because there's no more land to develop into it. So the housing essentially that you see that's here is being either renovated, updated. There's very little property to develop, and the zoning does not allow deep density. That's why the population is really not going to grow, and it actually can't grow until you get into some of the commercial districts that are not technically in Brentwood, but they are in Davidson County. There's where you're going to find most of the apartments or some condominiums, and you can have higher density and a little bit more growth. But if you're looking for stability of growth and you don't want a whole lot of change in an area that you move into, then Brentwood could be a great spot for you. Okay, so in all of my videos, I do some research because I know where I know, but there's some stats and things that I'm really not so sure of. And I do some research, and I looked up Brentwood, Tennessee, just on the livability index. There are quite a few websites that I like to check out and see what they say. I will tell you that one I looked up is called Citytistics, Citytistics. I don't know why I spelled that. But anyway, Citytistics. And they gave Brentwood, a 71 out of 100. Now, let me tell you why I think it's just full of garbage. And this is why you need somebody who really knows what they're talking about, not just some kind of a randomized algorithmic thing. They gave us a B in livability in Brentwood, and that is based on the cost of living, education, crime, blah, 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 safety, all those kind of things. Well, the interesting thing, they gave it a B in livability. They gave it a C in education. Now, Williamson County, do your own stats, do your own research. I can give you some websites. Williamson County is the best public schools in the state. So to give it a C on its education because of its public school system when it has some of the highest in the state, that's ridiculous. I mean, and people come from all over the country to live in Brentwood specifically because they want the best public school systems for their kids without having to go to private schools. So for livability to be a B, and the reason it's not an A is because of the education that this Citytistics gave it a C, just makes no sense. You can check it out. Go to greatschools.org and check out for yourself. It's kind of obscene. So please take as a grain of salt some of the things that you find about Brentwood, but about any place that you're looking up. See if you can't find a local to do some verification for you. Number 1 pro, Brentwood has the shortest commute of any town outside of Nashville to Nashville. It's about a 15-minute drive from the Brentwood I-65 Old Hickory Boulevard exit into downtown Nashville. That's a really quick commute. It also is only about 15 minutes to go further south to the next largest town, which is Franklin, with its all of its history that you've probably heard so much about. So easy access to both of these larger towns. Now, the con to that, and it's not really a con, but it might be if you're a big shopper. If you're a boutique shopper and you want the high-end shopping like Nordstrom and some of the just boutique shopping, that's more in Green Hills area. Cool Springs Mall has the Kastner Knots and the large big box, and it's Bed Bath & Beyond. Pretty much everything you can think that's more of the normal shopping experience, that's all just a few minutes down 65 in Cool Springs. You don't have to leave Brentwood at all for the day-to-day shopping like, Uncle Julio's, which is great Mexican food, or Fresh Market, Puffy Muffin, Kroger. You've got everything that you need. You got the sports places. You've got everything you need right there in Brentwood. But if you want some more specialized shopping, you are going to have to go outside of Brentwood to get that. Brentwood Schools, as I mentioned, regardless of what that other website said, is amongst the best in the Southeast. Definitely considered better in general than the Davidson County Nashville public school system. Williamson County schools are more highly rated than any other county school within Tennessee. And I've been trying to wonder why that is. I think it's really because the housing is much more expensive in Williamson County. It means you have we do have some racial diversity in Williamson County, but there's not a lot of socioeconomic diversity. So you've got some very, very highly educated people who really place a lot of emphasis on education in Williamson County. Thus, it makes sense that their children also would be, pushed in that kind of direction. So that's what you get in Williamson County. Be sure to check out esri.com for more information about that kind of thing if you want to double check what I'm saying once you see the silliness of that other website. Now, what's the bad thing about the Brentwood schools? If by chance you happen to live in that area that I mentioned is Brentwood Light, which is the area of Brentwood that runs alongside of Old Hickory Boulevard toward Edmondson Pike, which is directly on Old Hickory Boulevard. Those are technically Davidson County, as I mentioned, although the mailing address is the Brentwood Post Office. If by chance you live there, you're going to the Davidson County schools. No, actually, a couple of those are really good schools, too. We're talking generalities here. But it's a con if you think you're buying a home that's going to continue to take your kids through elementary, middle, and high school in the public schools that are highly, highly rated of Brentwood, if you happen to buy your home in the wrong school district. So just be careful. Now, if you happen to not have school-age kids and it really doesn't matter, or you've got your children in some of the public schools that are very highly rated, that are very close here in the Brentwood area, like Harpeth Hall, MBA, Father Ryan, St. Cecilia, Franklin Road Academy, CP, so many. Those are all very close commute. If you don't really mind that, and you want to have a close commute, and your kids are going to go to the public, not go to the public schools, then you might want to be in the Brentwood Light section because the houses are less expensive, because the school system is not as good. There's reasons behind all of this, and that's why you need an expert. Reach out to us. Oh, and one more thing about schools. The further out in the county you go, the more developed those properties are becoming. More out in the county, meaning Williamson County or any of our outlying counties. So where you are currently zoned the day you buy your home, 3 years from now, you may not be zoned for that. If by chance they are continuing to have a lot of growth, a lot of children are moving into the area, and they need to build a new school. So you're not guaranteed to be able to go through that same school system throughout the year. That's another good reason to me to be in an area that's not having a lot of great growth and demand on their growth, but that's up to you. One area of concern is Nolensville, which is in Williamson County. The Nolensville area is expected to have a new school pretty soon. So if your child is now zoned for Ravenwood School and you live in Nolensville, in a couple years you may be going a different school. Now, it's going to be a great school still, but it's just these are some of the nuances, which is why you need a trusted person who knows what's going on in the area to know exactly and help you direct based on your needs. Quality of life. It has to be up there. That has to be a pro of Brentwood. The quality of life here is wonderful if you're looking for a little bit of a quiet, more suburbia. You want maybe a country club life. You want your children to enjoy school. They do the after-school sports. There's so many community activities to do. There's a church almost on every 3rd Street corner. People say that a lot about a lot of Middle Tennessee, and it's true in Brentwood as well. A lot of church activities, a lot of school activities, a lot of charity activities. The library there does an awful lot of things that are community related. Brentwood offers nonstop sports, nonstop outdoor activities, great walking areas between the Arboretum and the many, many pocket parks. Most of the newer communities are built around walking trails and several golf courses here in Brentwood. There's everything that someone could want to do that's a more laid-back, leisurely type of lifestyle. The con? If you really want to constantly be downtown at sporting events like the Titans football, if you want to go to soccer, if you want to go to the Sounds baseball, if you want to go to Predators ice hockey, if you want to go to concerts weekly, if you want to go to TPAC for the symphony, if you're wanting to be downtown weekly for things, you might find it a little boring in Brentwood. Let me just put it blank, because it kind of shuts down after about 9 o'clock. Great restaurants. Everything is still open. Well, that's not true. You can only get into one door at Kroger, one door in, one door out. It's a more laid-back suburbia. If by chance you happen to be a single in Brentwood, it too might be a little bit laid-backier for you. You might find yourself taking a lot of Ubers into downtown, but that's a good way to do it anyway. Save on your parking. Number 4, as much as you may hear it, getting around Brentwood is actually super easy. There's Old Hickory Boulevard, I-65 up toward Franklin. You jump on 65, easily go south, go north to Nashville. From Nashville, you can get on 40 to go east-west. Getting around Brentwood is actually very easy. And as you've learned the area, you also learn the back roads to not have to be on the main thoroughfares, which is Old Hickory Boulevard and Franklin Road. Now, the con to that is there are certain hours of the day that are not good, and it's a lot of congestion. But say you're coming from Maryland Farms, which is right there at Old Hickory Boulevard. It's an office park where there's Tractor Supply in Brookdale. Some of the larger Fortune 500 companies are based. That traffic going over in 65 to go other parts of town or to go out, that area can get pretty heavily congested going to the interstate at 65 and Old Hickory Boulevard. It can get tough. The times to move and go different places, you just won't learn to work around it. I personally have to go through that intersection every single day to get back home. And I choose, if I happen to still be working at Green Hills or different places, I choose to stay there and work out and come home after the 4:30 to 6 o'clock rush hour. Those are the hours. Go do something else. Go work out. But you learn to miss the congested areas on a pretty quick basis, and you can do the timing. Also, you can run into some school issues up and down Franklin Road. Franklin Road has both Father Ryan and Franklin Road Academy and Otter Creek. It's got several schools up and down Franklin Road. So when you're trying to leave or go places during those school district times, you take the back roads. So once we find your location, we'll also then teach you back roads. Based on your timing of when you need to be different places, we can map out the best ways for you to get there. Housing, got to talk about it. One of the major pros of living in Brentwood is the suburbia, the breathing room, the spaciousness. This is where you're going to likely find a 3-car garage. This is where you're likely going to find the pool. You're going to find the 1-acre lots. There's a reason for that. Most of Brentwood started being developed. Remember I said when I was growing up, Brentwood was being developed in the 60s and 70s. That was when they were on the larger lots. Why? Because we didn't have sewer out this far. So you had to be on a septic tank. Now, don't let that scare you. Most have now converted to septic, so you don't have to deal with that. But you do have the larger home sites. 60s and 70s, people were building ranches. They have, spread out. They had smaller neighborhood swimming pools. It was beautiful suburbia, the way you see in, the old 60s, 70s sitcoms. What people now loving is the fact that it's so convenient. Large spread out lots. Most of the homes have been converted and renovated. And maybe those 8-foot ceilings are now been pulled up and they're 8 and 9 and 10-foot ceilings for more of today's lifestyle. So the older traditional style on the big, beautiful lots are now completely renovated homes on the larger lots, if someone has bought and done that to them. You're not finding many homes that haven't been converted any longer. But what you do know, and this is the reason I can tell you with a surety that this is an area that people love and they don't move from, is because many of those homes are still almost original owners. The people have been there for 30, 40 years. So what you've got is older people living with younger families. They outgrow their homes, but they don't want to leave, so they're renovating and adding on to their homes. What's negative about that? The negative about that is there are very few homes for sale. That's kind of the way it is all over Nashville. But also the median price of homes. You really are not finding a median price is like, again, there's no cookie cutter. There is no cookie cutter in Brentwood, and that's the hard part about pricing houses. But you're looking definitely close to $1 million, and probably much more than that. If it's got 4 bedrooms, if it's got a 3-car garage, if it's got 10-foot ceilings, if it's got your modern kitchen, if it's got those things, you're well into the millions, and the sky's the limit. So that's certainly a negative to that. If you're one of those people who loves to find the least expensive home in the best neighborhood, and you're not afraid to roll up your sleeves, and you're willing to work and find some homes that haven't been touched yet, and you have a vision, because it's going to take one, you can convert those homes and do whatever you want to it. As long as you do it with integrity, you're going to make your money out of it. So I see that as a pro, a con, a good, a bad, a ugly, and make it beautiful kind of situation. So I'll be honest with you, many of us old Nashvillians who've been here forever, when Brentwood wasn't the place that became the corporate headquarters mecca for so many businesses and so many executives in the 90s, when some of those houses all started coming up in the 90s and early 2000s, they all looked very, very similar, and we used to call them the Brentwood box. The beautiful thing I see now is that people are making those boxes their own, and it's really fun to see them come into their own, still on those larger lots, still on the mature trees, and in my book, you can't beat that. So if that's the type of lifestyle you're looking for, do whatever you want to do downtown, but come home to a little peace and quiet in a quieter area. And, you can run out 5 minutes to get to the grocery at 8 o'clock at night and not have a lot of traffic. Brentwood is the place for you. If you want a lot of nightlife on a continual basis in your own backyard, Brentwood's not the place for you. But what is? Let's talk about it. I'm Susan Thetford. Give me a call. Do what so many people are doing. Call, text, email me. Say, we got to talk. I need to know about some different things. I want to move there, but I have no idea where to start. I know exactly how to help you start. Let's get going. See you next week.